Same, right?
We'll shift to you.
We'll move together. We're like pairs ice skaters. Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Oh my gosh, January 4th?
The third.
Oh, the 3rd. Okay, the 3rd. Okay. Oh, thank you for. Happy New Year, everybody. Huh?
Happy
John,
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Same to you, Paul.
Oh, thank you, John. Oh, golly. Well, what a fabulous way to start the year. Okay? By raising your hand, how many of you woke up this morning and you said, oh my gosh, as you put your feet on the ground, you leapt into the air because you realized that you were going to see John Long and his culinary skills delight and amaze you today? Raise your hand if you jumped out of bed when you realized that.
Oh,
Okay.
All hands are up. This is nice, Paul.
Yeah, John, right?
All right, two people in the audience.
I think the spice and motion classes are working quite well here. Yes, all right. Good.
Awesome.
All right, so Happy New Year. And again, if you didn't realize it already, you're at a cooking demonstration where John Long is going to demonstrate. And John, what will you be demonstrating momentarily?
Yeah.
Okay.
So today we'll be doing some fresh pastas. We talked to y'all last month during our cooking demo and decided we'd show you something from scratch cooking. So today we're doing a butternut squash ravioli, which is stuffed with butternut squash, roasted garlic, and caramelized shallots, and a little bit of cheese in there. And then we'll also be doing just a regular, I'll call it a spaghetti. I think that's what we're going to go for today. And that'll be with a tomato bruschetta and crab meat over top of it. So we're giving you a stuffed pasta and a more of a whole pasta, like again spaghetti, capellini, something like that. So
Okay. All right.
No pasta fazool.
no pasta fazool.
No
That's
pasta fajoule. Yeah. Thank you for throwing out the suggestions after we had already come up with the menu. But Anne, thank you. Pasta fajoule might be a future thing that we try.
So tell me about pasta, Paul. What
Well,
do you know?
you know what, John? Pasta is actually goes back literally thousands of years. Okay. Now, where do most of us, think of pasta being from? Where would you think most pasta comes from? Italy, of course, right? Absolutely. And these are great answers. Everyone shouted out Italy. They're incorrect, but nevertheless, fabulous answers, okay? Yeah. John, actually, tell us where pasta is from quite originally. Can you share that with us?
So they say that pasta originally came from China, and they were eating a form of pasta 5,000 years BC. So they're a little bit ahead of the Italians in regards to pasta. The pasta that they are used to and still do today is a much lighter pasta. They use lighter flours and obviously two separate styles of cooking. So very unique to their culture. Same thing with the Italian pasta. So Marco Polo, who has been credited with some forms of pasta being found, maybe had not found pasta, if that's the truth. So
That is correct.
Yeah.
Marco Polo, during his journeys, he was gone for 24 years when he left Italy. And he came back 24 years later. Little known story behind the story, he actually took a wrong turn at one point, and it took him a while to get back to where he needed to end up. However, with that being said, it is thought, John,
hold on a second,
incorrectly.
Paul. Where did Marco Polo end up?
You know where he did end up? He ended up in the Great Palace in Beijing, in the presence of the great Kublai Khan. Now you know that the Khan kingdom, or the various Khan kings, and the greatest of them was known as Genghis Khan. They were actually the Mongols. The Khans were the leader of the Mongolian Empire. And the Mongols at one time had the largest landmass empire ever on the face of the earth. Okay?
Impressive.
Yeah, it was impressive at the time, yeah, and it's impressive now. Okay, so in the process of their empire expanding, it not only expanded to the east, but it expanded to the west. And so indeed, pasta gravitated long before Marco Polo actually made his 24-year journey bringing pasta back. Thank you for asking, John.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start out by making some pasta dough. The pasta dough we're making here today is just a traditional classic dough. It'll be flour, eggs, and salt. So we're doing 6 cups of flour, 9 eggs, and then 1 tablespoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of olive oil. While doing that, that'll make us about 60 raviolis. And for dry pasta, it'll make us, for fresh pasta, it'll make us about 3 pounds, give or take. So we're going to go ahead and start that.
And you're going to make a fresh pasta today.
We're going to make fresh pasta right now, Paul.
Okay, great. John, while you're cracking eggs, that's a technical skill that only trained chefs know how to do. What's the difference between a ravioli, a pierogi, a gnocchi? Is there a major difference between
Gnocchi
those?
has potato in it.
Okay, so gnocchi is more of just a potato. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And what was your other one?
And pierogi.
Pierogi actually has potato in it. It also has sour cream in there as a base inside the mixture.
Wonderful.
I'm glad I researched today, Paul.
Terrific. And
So potato and sour cream inside the pasta or the filling itself. So I added in the eggs. I added in the flour was already in there. I'm doing it inside the pan to keep our countertop a little bit cleaner as we go, and then a little bit of olive oil and salt as well. So while I'm doing that,
okay, and you're doing this by hand, and I see you're doing it fairly gently. Is there a reason for that?
Trying to break up the egg yolks so they get around the flour itself.
All right, fine. Speaking of pierogies, and I know we're not making pierogies today, but I did learn a little bit about pierogies. October 8th is actually National Pierogi Day in this country, okay? And if you ever travel to Whiting, Indiana, there's actually a pierogi fest every July in Whiting, Indiana. So if you cherish the pierogi as many of us do, then I suggest that you partake in either of those 2 opportunities. Okay, so Kathy has a question. Kathy, what is the question?
Where does pierogi originate? What country?
Okay.
I never knew it was connected with any Italian food.
Yeah. Well, it's...
That's what I thought.
So
Okay, so the
Paul's
question's
just
from
talking
Kathy.
about some different forms.
do you mind if I
absolutely.
repeat the question? Yeah. Great, good. Let's focus on...
Focus on your pasta.
Because I want to make sure I understand the question. So where does pierogi come from? And by the way, the singular term of pierogies is pierogi. Okay, all right. But it actually originates from the Central European countries. It's not one country. Okay, so there's a strong heritage in Germany as well as in Poland, and then it did migrate to Eastern Europe. Ukraine being one of those areas that the pierogi is very, very popular. Actually, today, though, pierogies are consumed in the United States quite frequently. I don't know if you know that there's actually what's called a pierogi corridor in this country, extending from the Detroit, Chicago area, the upper Midwest, through Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and through Pennsylvania. So we actually, about 68% of all pierogies in this country are consumed in that part of the country. Okay? Too bad we're not making pierogies today, though.
No, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be much more relevant.
That'd be
to
very nice, Paul.
Okay, so how is the dough coming?
So right now it's starting to form in. We'll keep kneading it and working it in. I actually had a resident helper this morning who is Italian. She helped me form some raviolis for y'all, but we did have some good conversation about Italian foods and doughs themselves.
Oh, fabulous!
And
Good.
I will not name that resident.
Okay. Oh, but a resident was helping us with
Due to TV contracts. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, fair enough. Oh, there's a question. Con, you have a question?
John lowers his voice when he started talking. A hard of hearing group.
I can speak louder for you, Con.
Yeah.
I can.
For Ann.
Yeah, no problem.
I will say John lowers his voice mostly because if you have a soft voice while you're dough, it actually allows it to be fluffier when you cook. All right, a harsh voice will really dampen it down.
The dough is much less stressed out, Con.
That's right. Good. All right. So as the dough is being completed, John, what will be happening next?
So the next thing we're going to do is talk about our filling, which is right down there. See with the little spoon in it.
Okay. All right.
The filling that we did today is a butternut squash, like I was telling you earlier. It's we cooked down butternut squash. We roasted off some shallots and garlic, mixed them all together, and we finish it with mascarpone cheese and a little bit of salt and pepper. And put it in the freezer so it's stiffened up, and now we'll be filling raviolis with it. Well, Paul will be filling raviolis.
Well, this is exciting, isn't it? Yes. Okay. John, why did you select a shallot for this filling?
Just preferred. Yeah.
Preferred?
I like shallots. We've now gone away from red onion here for residents. We've been asked to go to a yellow onion, something a little bit sweeter. The shallots are definitely crispier. They got a little bit more heat to them, but for applications like this in cooking, they work out well.
Okay. So we've gone with the shallot, and John described, as you all know, a shallot is part of the allium family. It's a flowering plant that includes not only shallots, but onions, chives, other of those type of flowering plants. A shallot is, well, you know, if you ever notice when you walk into a grocery store, when you walk into the fruit and vegetable section, what's right up front typically when you walk into the fruit and vegetable section? Raise your hand and I'll call on somebody here. There's no prizes involved, but what's right up front in the fruit and vegetable section?
Onions,
The flowers, right? Great answer, okay. The oranges, right? The tomatoes, but they put the onions and the shallots in the back. And you know what? We know that these shallots, these onions, they really are the workhorse of the kitchen. And it's a shame that they're put in the back, okay? And so... It's true, okay? So, but the shallot is sweeter, okay? It can retain its flavor a little bit different. It doesn't overpower other foods as much as an onion might. Okay, so a shallot is a good choice in many cases. Okay, would you agree with that? By the way, you're the chef, not me. So
All right, so
it's possible I'm making this up.
we're not going to use this dough, so we're going to pass this out.
Okay.
So if you want to take two,
Okay, and we're going to pass this around.
Those around. Yep.
All right, great, good. So.
You just
Yeah, keep kneading it while. Do we need to keep working this as it gets passed along?
No. Please do not knead the dough on the way by. Okay.
All right.
You'll smell the smell is very similar to a dry pasta. You'll see the texture is much different, and the cooking technique will be a lot shorter.
All right.
So
aren't you gonna take a bite?
Well.
do not eat them.
There
Yeah.
you are, kidding.
Although it really can't hurt
Fabulous,
you.
yeah. Okay. Now you'll be tempted to maybe move that into some sort of shape or something, but and that's, I think, in the kitchen, John. Don't you agree that you should apply your own personal touches?
Yeah. So when we were rolling out raviolis earlier,
Okay.
we were talking about that they need to look perfect. They absolutely do not need to look perfect.
All right.
So I have some dough right here.
Okay. Can I show this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
I was gonna tell you. Oh my, yeah.
So what have you done to get to this point, John, right here?
So that's what we're going to work on now.
Oh,
We're
I'm
going to put
sorry.
a little semolina flour on the table here.
Okay.
Coming back at you, Paul.
Okay.
Everybody's
Passing it back.
plate.
All right, I'll take it.
Oh, that's
Have
true.
enough of
Yeah.
it?
Good Play-Doh.
Everybody's good?
It's a good Play-Doh. Yeah.
It's all warm.
Yeah. John, if I can add in one more comment about the shallot, and because I know people have been asking about shallots a lot. Any sort of LEM, whether it's an onion, a shallot, a chive, is not sexy unto itself, but no dish complete can be its full sexiness without a shallot in it. And so,
Thank you, Paul.
now that's just my opinion, but on the other hand, I just wanted to throw that in there.
All right, so what we're going to use today to roll out our pasta, again, I was speaking with someone earlier, and they put it down on the table, and they had a giant rolling pin the size of the table, and they would roll it out, and they would do their cutters over top and make their ravioli. Today, things got a little bit easier. So we just have our regular standard KitchenAid for the kitchen, and then these are actually my personal attachments. We can make flat pastas with these. We cannot do round pastas, so we couldn't do penne or anything like that. But we can do all the flat pasta we want, and then we have different cutter blades for the end of it, for end result. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to press it out.
Okay. While John is starting that, I'm going to send around a couple of the samples. Is that okay?
Just don't let them touch those because we're going to cook this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So these are for observational purposes only, but as you take a look. Yeah. So pass that to me. I did nothing, yeah. So good. Well, they're doing that.
Right over there.
Okay, good. All right, awesome. Terrific. So, John, you're going to send that through a couple of times?
We're going to send it through a couple times, get it to flatten out, and then it'll kind of incorporate it a little better and sort of polish the pasta as it goes through. If it starts to get really moist on the outside, we'll just put it down on a little bit of semolina flour. You put it on the table now, it'll still move around the semolina, and then just keep folding it in half.
Now, we talked earlier about about pasta being originally from where? China, right? Okay. And how long ago? Approximately 5,000 years ago, right, Roberta? Yeah. Now, it's obviously become very popular in this country. It was brought over first by Spanish settlers, obviously after the time of Columbus, that would make sense. But it was most popularized by our third president. By raising your hand, who would remember and say out loud, who is our first president? We know that's George Washington. Our second president was John Adams, but our third president was actually Thomas Jefferson. And Thomas Jefferson spent a good deal of time from 1784 until 1789 in Paris. And that is where he discovered something that and it was generally called macaroni in Paris. And he brought it back, and he is actually the person that popularized pasta in the general name of macaroni in this country. Interesting. Yeah. Terrific, good.
So right now it's pretty thick texture. When you look at it, it's not too thick for pasta.
All right, so John is passing that, or showing the...
Yeah, we're not going to pass this.
Okay, good. Can you, let's, can we
And
show...
then what we're going to... Did you see it? You got it? I don't know about that. Let's see how thick it is. It's very thick, right? So on the wheel here...
And John, if you'd...
we have an
it
adjustment
directly.
knob. Right around to the camera.
Very nice.
So there's an adjustment on here, and you go everywhere from 1 to about 7. Obviously, the thinner that you go, the thinner the spaghetti would be, all the way down to angel hair pasta. It does become harder to work with, though, as you thin it out. So we're going to go, you have to go number by number. You can't just go from 1 to 7, or they'll smash the pasta and it won't work.
Okay, I see. So you gently get it to the thickness that you want.
Yeah, and it'll start getting longer as we go.
Okay. All right, fine. Good. John, one of the terms that I've heard, it may not come into play today, but what is the term al dente mean? And have I pronounced that correctly?
Firm to the tooth.
Firm to the tooth?
Yes.
Is that right? Wow. Raise your hand if you knew that previously. I did not know that. Firm to the tooth. Okay. Do you have to go to a dentist to find out if your pasta is done?
No.
Okay, all right. Thought we just wasn't what what the official way of finding out if your pasta's done or not. All right. Okay, John. Good job.
How long do you think that is? I don't know, what, 18 to 20 maybe? 18 to 20 inches?
Okay.
And that's only a number 3. So we're going to go to number 4 and we're going to stop there for ravioli.
Okay, for ravioli.
And then we're going to put Paul to work.
Oh, good.
Which you'll all be happy about because I'll have to concentrate on the ravioli.
So you think. If this were to be spaghetti, would we be doing the same thing, John? Spaghetti.
You'd be doing the same thing, we're going to do that next.
Okay.
So,
Wonderful. Good.
Paul, if you want
All right. What would you like me to do?
step over.
Okay.
So basically what we're going to do is we chose about an 1.5-inch cutter, almost a 2-inch cutter, and we're going to go through and we're going to make circles out of the dough. It takes 2 circles per every ravioli. You have a base, and just keep pushing them on top of it.
Okay.
And we'll keep them pretty dry by putting them back on top of the semolina flour, which is also on the floor, as you can see.
Okay. Which helps with our tap dance routine that we'll be doing later. Yes. Oh, jeez, golly. Sorry about that, Sean.
You don't have to make a couple. You don't have to make them all.
Okay. All right.
So we said earlier about making the pasta. It's very quick. So normal pasta would be about 8 to 9 minutes al dente. This should cook in anywhere up to 2.5 to 3 minutes. So much quicker because it's fresh and we're not trying to rehydrate.
Terrific.
So I just put 4 in there, and we're going to make our first dish.
Good. Do you need more, John, from me, or is
No,
this?
no, you're good to go.
All right, terrific, good.
How many have that? 6.
I have 6.
Perfect.
Okay, terrific, good.
All right, fantastic. Well,
I like to have my pasta done in even numbers. And
so our
that's why
next step is going to be our filling. Again, our filling today is the butternut squash. As you can see, it's not super thick, and there is a little bit of egg in there just for a binder. So when it cooks up, it should stay kind of moosey. It won't get like one of the generic brands that you buy, where it gets more gritty, like a grated cheese. This is the filling for your ravioli. Not bad, right? Nice. All right, let's put Paul back to work.
Okay, great.
So we're just going to take a dollop in the middle of each one and just stay off the edges.
Okay. And you'll need.
And then 3 tops.
All right, terrific, good.
May I ask another question?
Yes.
Please, Kathy.
When you put that type of filling in, is that one of many fillings that you put in ravioli?
So this is a preferred filling for me. I like the butternut squash, but you could do just about anything. You can do spinach, you can do ricotta cheese. Really, you can go all the way even into dessert raviolis if you'd like to. It just really depends on what you're trying to get for a final product and a result. So again, preference for me. I like mine a little savory, but it has some sweetness to it. We're going to do it with a brown butter sauce over top, so it's going to give it a pretty nice flavor.
Terrific.
And these are finished. So you know they're finished when they start floating through the water.
You start what?
They'll start floating. Maybe they'll come out.
Okay.
Maybe they won't.
Now you see that John is actually cooking on a conduction style of
Induction.
induction, yeah. And that's interesting that this heat is actually transferred not thermally, but it's transferred through a copper wire below the surface of the below the surface of the stove, and then we need a certain type of metal pan, either cast iron or something that actually has stainless steel in it to conduct the heat directly to the surface of the pan. It turns out that once this pan is removed, the heat dissipates almost immediately. We could even put a piece of newspaper between this pan and the surface, and it would still not burn or anything along that line. Okay.
So next thing we're going to do for our ravioli to finish it up, just a little bit of a little bit of egg wash on the top, and we're going to cover them up, circle to circle. Pat your edges a little bit, and then you can just pick it up and seal your edges down. And our fork is where? Right here. And then we're just going to take and fork the edges to make a nice little design inside the ravioli itself.
May I put one of those on here and show
Yeah,
the finished
absolutely.
product?
We don't have to make all these because we made some for you downstairs already. That's it.
All right, terrific, good.
Again, each one's going to be unique, so they're not always going to look the same, which is kind of nice. They'll show you that they're homemade, and if Paul wants to make one, you can.
I'll look forward to that, indeed. Okay. So, right, so we see where we started and where John, you have a special design that you like to put on the edges of your ravioli?
Yeah. Standard Brightview fork design.
I think that says the Brightview mission statement that you've actually put in there, and we'll make sure that on camera we see that. Okay, terrific, good. All right, John, so what are you doing now?
So we're actually going to change it up. We're going to do this one a little different.
Okay.
We're going to make a quick bruschetta with a little bit of crab for this one.
Okay, so a bruschetta.
So, again, we're going to show you that it's universal. Pasta is pasta. So white sauce, red sauce, vodka, cream sauce, whatever you want, everything kind of flows together. I probably wouldn't use a red sauce with butternut squash ravioli myself, but it's not to say that you can't. So the thing that kind of makes it unique is that you have a lot of capability in regards to what you can and can't use.
All right. And that has shallots again. Does it have garlic? I smell the garlic. And then tomato.
And a little bit of salt and pepper.
And salt and pepper.
And we'll add a tiny bit more olive oil to it.
Okay, a little olive oil, a little salt and pepper. Okay. Season the taste.
Season the taste.
Terrific. Good.
We'll let that go for a minute, and then I'm going to show you how to make ground pasta while we're going.
I'm looking at that garlic. It's a reminder that garlic has many different uses, as you know. It can be a cure for athlete's foot, acne, even for earaches. Just mix that with a little olive oil, boil it for about 5 minutes, let it cool, sift it, and then drop it in your ear, and it can solve an earache problem for you, believe it or not. Okay? When you go through life, you realize that garlic offers so many opportunities in it. So. And the vampire warding off vampires. That's right. Good.
Paul, just give that a little flip for me.
Okay. Terrific. Good. Okay. Well, we'll have a little cleanup problem over here in a moment, but nevertheless. John, I noticed there's tomatoes in your mix here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the question for the group: is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable? A fruit. Fruit, yes. Good. Fruit. You agree with that, Kitty? Fruit, yeah. John, is the tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
Technically, that's fruit.
Okay. Technically a fruit. So this comes from the expert. It's technically a fruit.
I don't know how much of an expert, but
According to the Supreme Court in 1893, it turns out that in a non-botanical format, according to the Supreme Court, the tomato is a vegetable. But we do know that it is a fruit from its actual origins in terms of where it is grown. Okay? It turns out that in not 1893, but 1887, a tariff on all vegetables coming into the United States was imposed, and thus a lawsuit ensued. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court decided that because tomatoes were most often served at dinners versus with desserts, they defined a vegetable or a tomato as a vegetable rather than a fruit, even though it is technically, as John said, a fruit. Okay? So for those of you who are fans of the Supreme Court, like I am, okay? Good. Wonderful. Good. All right, John, I see you're doing something else over there.
So we're gonna make that dish, and then we're gonna go ahead and you're gonna make some spaghetti noodle.
Oh, terrific.
So we're gonna I'll lay this out, and we'll finish that dish up first.
All right. And then what we have here is, and I'm going to show, do you mind if I show the gang here? Okay.
Absolutely.
It's the crab meat that was added to the tomatoes, the shallots, and the garlic, a little olive oil, and salt and pepper to taste. Yeah, doesn't that smell good? That's right, we should have brought our spoons and our, yeah. Good. Yeah, doesn't that look wonderful? Good. Yeah. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. John, great job. Hey, before we forget later on, let's give John a round of applause for what he's doing so far. Yeah, terrific. Good. All right. So you're dicing up a little lemon, I see there, John.
Yep, we're gonna go right over the top with some Parmesan cheese. So
Okay.
we got our fresh cooked pasta that we just made up.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I see John now. This is interesting. So you've taken your raviolis and you're putting on top the crab meat, the tomato,
A little bit of Parmesan cheese.
a little bit of Parmesan. Let's show the camera first, okay? Oh, that is just delightful. Wonderful. Is this on the menu for tonight, John?
So here's the fun part. We have ravioli that will be coming out to you all during happy hour this evening. So
Oh,
we're
so
making some
happy hour is
individual
good.
Ones, and they'll be coming out for happy hour.
Good grief.
That dish will be there, and that's actually a dish that we would like to highlight in the spring, summer season locally here. So
Wonderful. Yeah. Where do you get your tomatoes, crab meat from, John?
our crab meat for the summer and fall seasons is always local to here, so it's always out of the Chesapeake Bay. Unfortunately, in the wintertime, we do have to either go south or we do have to go to Venezuelan and things like that. And then local sourced as much as possible in regards to our produce.
That is true. Yeah. That's right. Terrific, John.
So we talked about some different cutters. So the one that we're going to do right now is actually a traditional spaghetti cutter.
So do you time how long it takes you to do a couple of raviolis?
So how long do you think that took? You were here maybe 15 minutes? So we did about.
What was the
30
question, John?
So she said, do we time how long it takes to do ravioli?
Okay.
From front to back, after the filling's made and the dough is made, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to do 30 ravioli. So it's fairly quick once you get the process moving.
Terrific. Good.
Great question.
Yeah. While John is going through that, he touched on one of my favorite cheeses, which is Parmesan cheese. And that comes from the region in north-central Italy, as you know, the Parma region, as well as, and I had to write this down, but it's the region right next to Parma, which is called, well, it's right there, is what it is. And the reality is that only cheeses that come from that region of Italy can be called Parmesan cheese. In the European Union, which is the union of the European various countries and their shared commercial bloc, they're labeling only cheeses that come from that region of Italy can be named Parmesan. So Kraft Cheeses, sells a cheese in the European Union, and they had to rename their Parmesan cheese. I think we've all used Parmesan cheese from Kraft, and they call it Parmacello on there. They had to change the name for that. Yep.
And is it true that Parmesan cheese tends to have wood in it?
Is it true, John is asking, that Parmesan cheese has a tendency to have wood in it? Wood. Okay, John, let's find out from the group here.
Especially store brands and things like that, they have a tendency to put a wood bifiller into Parmesan cheese. Number one, to keep it from spoiling. Number two, to bulk it up. So if you ever seen Kraft Parmesan cheese, you can get a full pound of it for about $3. If you went and bought a real Parmesan cheese, a good one, Asiago or anything like that, you'd be closer to anything from $8 up to some cheeses are up in the $30, $40 a pound. So again, they are allowed to use wood filler. It's safe, it's not going to hurt you, but there's a ton of wood filler in most of your generic cheeses, including some of the major brands.
Yeah. What's interesting about the Parmesan cheese that comes from the Parmigiano and Reggiano region of Italy is that it is half unpasteurized milk from a cow that was milked in the morning, and that is mixed with another equal measure of milk that was actually milked in the evening before. We call that skim milk because it has separated. Those two come together. The curds that are eventually come from that mixture become the Parmesan cheese. But did you know that the whey that is left over, thank you, what should I do with this?
You're going to put it in the water.
Okay, great. The whey that is left over actually is rushed next door to where the pigs are, and it becomes part of the prosciutto ham that is made in that region of the world. Right.
Are you going to give us a test?
I couldn't even pass this test, so believe me.
You can't make up that much stuff and then bring it all back.
You know what? Presentation today. Most of this is true, yes.
20 minutes worth of the 30 minutes is true. Holy moly.
I'm supposed to repeat the questions when they're asked from the audience, but I don't know if I'll... Is most of this true? Yes.
So what we did earlier, just because we had to reduce down, this is a pretty simple sauce. We took some red onion, we took garlic, and cooked it out with a tiny bit of olive oil. Put some butter into the pan, about a quarter cup of butter.
Won't hurt you. Oh, I know it won't hurt me.
With the quarter cup, you can take it home. You can, I don't know if I would cook it. So this is a brown butter. We took butter, we added it into the pan, and then we added lemon juice. The lemon juice actually helps brown the butter out. We added a little bit of salt and pepper, and then finished it off with some heavy cream and Parmesan cheese.
And so the browner color comes from the lemon juice, is that correct?
Correct.
Oh, interesting.
And our pasta should be done.
Okay, so our pasta... Yes, Khan, you have a question.
bit of proof.
Okay.
Okay, how much lemon into that much cream or the butter?
The question was how much lemon went into this much cream and
One
Just
full
the
lemon.
juice?
the juice of one full lemon, Con.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. Thank you very much. So this has really come together so nicely, John. Now the pasta, we would now be calling this al dente. Is that correct?
This would be al dente, but it's
Al
not going to
dente.
be like a dry pasta, Paul.
It's not going to be a dry pasta.
Dry pasta. Let's see if I can give you a piece.
Okay. Thank you. All right,
You want to walk that around?
Okay, so I will walk this around. Okay.
Just eat it.
So,
Let's go ahead and eat it and finish it up.
okay, so this is what a not if it's not. All right, let's have a dramatic eating of the. Is this a wet pasta?
This is this is fresh pasta.
Fresh pasta. Okay. Oh my God.
Is it hot?
No, it's not hot. It is so fresh. I feel as if I'm running through an open field. Honestly. And there's a cool spring breeze blowing. That is how fresh this is.
You can say that with a straight face, huh?
Yeah, try that. Can we do another take on?
I will tell you this, though. Are we almost done here, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
We're very close.
Okay. I'm going to say
Hold
something.
on, wait. Did you say
Oh.
the best for last? Is that what you're?
Well, no, I just want to. I want to give my personal credit to John before we wrap up this. I have been listening to John today, seeing him prepare, and he did something today that I have never had done before. He's knocked my socks off with this presentation. I think you'd agree with this.
He's eating out of someone else's hand.
I will tell you, of course, we all know that knock your socks off is a Southern expression from the 1940s. It really originated when a person would be fighting, and they got in a good punch, they would knock a person's socks off metaphorically. But today, John, I would agree. Look, you have knocked my socks off. Okay, that's how fabulous this cooking is, right? Let's take it.
You're such a mess.
That is awesome. So can I?
Yeah, have at it.
Okay. All right. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. That looks good enough to eat. That's right. Yeah. Oh, good job, Donna. Yeah. Terrific. Good. All right. Yeah.
Right.
All right. John, this is just unbelievable. The question is, would I personally eat that? No, because as you know, at Brightview Annapolis, everything that we do here, we kid around, we have a good time, but it is done for your personal enjoyment of living here. This is a meal that will be prepared for you in the future as part of the menu, but also we also heard for tonight, the raviolis will be part of happy hour. So I would love to have that, but no, of course, this is your home, and we are happy to be serving this to you. So John, thank you so much. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right, great job. All right. Are there any last questions for John and his fabulous work here today? Anything?
I
Good.
have a question.
Okay, good. Yes.
Where did the socks go?
Next question, please.
The socks became part of a different Parmesan cheese. Yeah, that's it. So
The store brand.
that's a store brand, yeah. Not something that we are going. Oh, yeah, and that is fabulous. Good.
Really under the pasta. Just couldn't see it.
Terrific. Good. All right. Great job, John. Great job, everybody that was here. So Roberta and Jane and Carol, Charlotte, fabulous. Carol, Arlene, Kathy, Con. Oh my gosh, this is just a kidding. Thank you, everybody. Fabulous. Is that it?
That's it, Paul.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Great job being
I
here.
have a proposal.
Oh,
What do you have?
proposal. Okay.
Can't we